We've been eliminated? What the bleep?
Your last agency? Eliminated. They blew your SEO and PPC budget like it was play money. This isn't a game. This is war. And we don't miss. Welcome to the Power Agency.
What's up? What's up? I got Ray Bob in his head. What's up, big dog?
I'm jiving with the AI intro.
I told you I've been working, man. This is my dude. This is my bro. I love this man. He is one of the hardest hitters in the online marketing space game. We've been rocking together since 2019, and it really hasn't stopped. So it's only appropriate. And we were just talking about this behind the scenes that we really start getting out here personally and professionally and publicly to tell you guys exactly what's been happening in the online space as well as the offline space. Because since 2020, all of this stuff has really hit home together. So this is Ray, brother. Tell me a little bit more about you and what you got going on and where we at with everything.
Well, thanks for the intro, Fred. And Fred's right there. You know, everybody, I think I can't say everybody, but a majority of people that we deal with or speak with or work with are in the online space. But everything, Fred and I have done has been a kind of hybrid of that. A lot of online, a lot of offline. My whole start was offline. I didn't even really get online until 2017. And then, as Fred mentioned, we've been rocking together since 2019, and we're going on almost 6 years now of working together, of knowing each other. And more importantly, Fred is a very close and one of my best friends. So a little more about me. Again, been in the online space full-time since 2019, but started learning in about 2017. And currently the co-owner of a couple different online digital brands, Audience Lab being a data company, Sales Lab. Fred has worked with me quite a bit in that company, building sales teams, training and placing reps, and more so, as I always like to highlight, through an ethical, solution-based, in the best interest of the prospect type of manner. And then I'm also the co-owner and co-founder of PDocs, which is an online communication system, which stands for pains, desires, obstacles, common beliefs, and steroids, otherwise known as attention grabbers in the marketplace. And everything to do with marketing and sales, that's where I plug in.
Yeah. So to sum it up, we've been in all of them.
There you go.
Yeah, because even during Audience Lab, that was one of the things that we first created together was a first $30,000 offer from scratch. And my wife actually closed the first deal on that. So we're not sitting here to impress you, but just impress upon you that me and Ray have been doing this. I would say that this is like Web 3.0 right now, version 3.0 online, because the first time people were really unsophisticated. The second time is when 2020 happened, and then people were trying to learn how to flow. And then the third time now is that nobody trusts each other. You know what I'm saying?
That's where we're at.
So show, because what we're going to do on this show in particular is talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly that we're seeing. Because one thing that me and Ray have noticed is that a lot of these worlds have now blended together. Once upon a time, they used to be all segmented out, but now it's like the Tower of Babel. Like you've got all of these different personas, all of these different energies. Like I was at the UN last week. It's all of this crazy stuff. And it just comes from us understanding how messaging works. And that's the key, because messaging is literally what drives all of this stuff. But more specifically, what happens once that message delivers? Like, bro, I had people blowing me up when they saw me at the UN. They're just like, well, wait, we didn't even, like, dude, like I told y'all, like, this is what I do. But it's a matter, again, to really share with you how important your communication is overall in general. So anything you want to add to that, brother?
No, you're spot on. Fred is a communication expert and one of the people that I can put in a class higher than myself in that category. I tend to think I'm very good at communication. It's one of my strengths, but Fred's better. That's first. And, what you said is kind of interesting about how people segment all those things and how online, offline. But the one thing that doesn't change that translates to every niche and industry, online, offline, you're meeting with people in person, I'm meeting over, live web softwares, whatever, is still the messaging and how you relate to people. And I think that was the big difference, which gave me kind of instant success. I took my messaging and communication that I learned offline and morphed into online without trying to learn those online methods that unfortunately aren't very relational, are kind of copy and paste, are scripted, are robotic. I never picked up on those bad habits, and that was probably a big leg up for me of getting success early on online, I would think.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing of what I love about Ray is that Ray is super real. You also got to check out his YouTube channel because I think we go a little bit more back into 2020 because here's the problem, guys. We act like 2020 didn't happen. Everybody's trying to move on, everybody's trying to do this thing, and then we wonder why we don't trust each other. The reasons why there's a huge lack of trust right now is simply because we're not understanding how the new communication styles are working. And that's something that me and Ray really identified. Like I would say, like around 2021, when we were splitting up, it was Ads Lab at that point in time. Actually, it was
Correct.
PDocs. And we went from PDocs to Ads Lab, and then we went from Ads Lab to like Audience Lab, and then Sales Lab was already in there somehow, some way. But sales is the glue to everything, and I don't want anybody to miss this because again, even when I'm talking to people offline, they're just like, oh, well, I don't want to sell. It's like, well, you better get used to it because especially now in today's age of lack of trust, communication is everything. So me and Ray have really developed a very unique system where we're able, and this isn't a plug, like we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about politics. We're going to be talking about all the shit that nobody wants to talk about because quite frankly, that's the stuff that drives conversions. So I love religion. I love politics. We're going to talk about all of that stuff because that's what Ray does. He's very comfortable. He's very real. But more specifically, we want to make sure that you understand once you put that message out there into the world, how does it manifest? You know, I think about a few weeks back, we talked about like, I look at it as online as being like a big petri dish. You know, a lot of people are experimenting out there. We know some of the gurus. We've worked with some of the gurus. We've trained some of these gurus. But now it's time for us to really shine. So is there anything you want to add? Because I'm going to jump into the UN stuff, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what you're saying there. I think, you were talking to somebody, you had mentioned there that, hey, man, I don't want to sell. And we hear that from a lot of experts or business owners or whatever. And it's like, number one, they have the wrong perception of sales. I mean, good sales reps, all they do is match their consumer with the product or service they're looking for. So you're really helping people, generally speaking, when you do sales, especially when you do it ethically. And I think you said something else big there. What has led to a lot of the mistrust in the marketplace, specifically since 2020, I would agree with you, is a lot of tactical stuff that was implemented, crazy guarantees and offers and all these little tactics that caught fire and everybody replicated it. And it just saturated the market with a bunch of blah, right? I mean, it's just a bunch of people spewing things.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of the reasons why, I mean, that is really how I got into the room over at the UN was because, again, when you're talking at that level with high level communicators, you got to understand something. What your words can turn into war, your words can turn into something that's a blessing. And one of the things that I'm about is that as I'm about peace, as a lot of people know that I'm a combat veteran, I've been out there. I know what it's like. I've been stuck out there on record for more than 30 days. And a little bit, we'll talk a little bit more about that too, because that sounds crazy, but it was really simple how it happened. But more specifically, it's just like what people don't understand is that I've always been like a top level communicator, and to be trained professionally in the military to do it is a whole different level, yet alone to be in a combat zone in real combat situations. And we did have people who didn't come back. So shout out to the vets, because even when I was at the UN, I met veterans from all over the world. So it's not like it's just one of these things. And the craziest thing about it, bro, I was like, security is tight.
I can imagine.
You gotta check for it. I was like, damn, like I couldn't believe it. All just to talk about peace, man. So when you really understand it from that viewpoint, the whole world shifted for me. So I want to go a little bit more into it because I actually have the audio clip. It's about a little bit over 3 minutes. I had a little bit more time. I could have spoke, but we'll talk about more about all of that other stuff. So if I can get that up, bro, let me check.
Because he made very poignant words. I want to introduce our next speaker, Fred Smith, who also has done the same with his life. He's the founder and CEO of Speed Scaling and the Power Agency, but he's a decorated U.S. military veteran. He was in Iraq for 43 days in the desert alone. Fred Smith, please.
As well, and also to the combat vets out here, thank you for your service as well. To dovetail off of everyone talking today for the brief amount of time that we have, today's challenges aren't just about economics, as we obviously know. This is a hidden strategic collapse, and we're not ready. So again, coming as a combat veteran Marine, war was never about armies. War is about confusion. And the word war itself comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word wares, which means to confuse. to mix up, not to destroy, not to disorient, to entangle us until free action is impossible. So today, war is no longer fought with guns. It's fought with numbers, complexity, and engineered confusion. Systems are just so bloated that no nation today can stand alone. Dependencies are just so quietly built that freedom collapses while appearing to no expand. I'm also a finance guy, so I'll go straight into the numbers if that's okay. Global debt right now exceeds $340 trillion with a T, 10 times faster than we actually produce real value. Every dollar of supposed growth is matched with $5 to $7 of leveraged, unpaid, invisible debt. It's inflation that doesn't reflect our true prosperity. It reflects engineered scarcity. So we get that through derivatives, contracts, unpayable bonds, and all of this tightens up around all 8 billion lives on this planet. So here's the wound that we refuse to name. We are raising a generation not for freedom, but for lifelong servitude. Not to create, but to obey these invisible mechanisms. So this isn't governance, it's beyond that. This is actually collapse by design. And to keep it brief and simple, here is what we have to do. We have to name this. We've got to name this. It goes from a should to a must. So speed scaling isn't a theory. It's a codified system of strategic duplication, operational sovereignty, and post-collapse reconstruction. As he mentioned, things are getting real, and the deadline is near, and the time is now. Thank you for your time and your trust. I appreciate you.
I want to say just one thing very quickly in 15 seconds. I think we really need to stand up and really acknowledge these two men who gave their lives and not just do rhetoric. Please. Okay. So now.
And that blows my mind, man. You know, to get a standing ovation, what was that about? Yeah. So that's where we're at, though, bro. It's just like,
nice job.
Thank you. Well, let me get some feedback. What was the good, bad, and the ugly about it? I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, it was clear, concise, and just kind of what I expect from you. Great communication skills, great confidence in the way you delivered it. The cadence, just everything about it was very well done, especially in that short amount of time to kind of get that much in there.
Yeah, and I'm thankful you said that, because that's the power of what me and you have done behind the scenes for years. It's just like I started out with 10 minutes, then I had to go from 10 minutes to 5 minutes, and then I had to go from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. So I had to strategically really craft a message that was going to hit, like, period. And I had to know where everything was. I didn't know whether there would be a teleprompter. I didn't know, there were a lot of unknown variables. And when you're really working on delivering a message, especially at that level, it's got to be really tight, because even when I was out in the Persian Gulf doing that, the problem that we have is that it's what's known as the fog of war, where people don't know how to communicate that tight. So things get lost in translation, and you've got to move. Like, there's no other option. It's either life or death. Like, you are in the pocket. You're making news in real time. It's like, you got to go. So that's how I treated that whole thing, and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot, like you said, a standing ovation. Obviously, that means you got your point across. People, appreciated it, stood behind it, and and that's what a good message does. It gets people to stand behind it and support it and share it and get it out there to more people and raise its awareness or raise its priority of how quick some action needs to be taken. That was a really good job.
I appreciate that, brother. And now that's the point. So what happens next once a message is delivered? Like, we don't talk about that enough in our regular world. Like, I wasn't taught marketing or advertising when I was a kid. I didn't even realize that what I was doing was called marketing or advertising. And the problem that I'm seeing in today's schools, public and private, is, and more on that later, is that we are not taught or trained how to properly communicate. Hence, we lose this lack of trust. And unfortunately, we have a lot of outdated tactics that are being published in real time right now as being brand new. And the problem with that is it's a tactic. It's not something that's real enough to connect with somebody so that they can actually understand exactly what you want to have happen. Because if somebody's in my reality, like, whether they're online or offline, we've got to have something in common. Other than that, there's really nothing to talk about. Or if it happens to be like when I'm running ads right now, that ad has to connect with, like I said, my future friends. Like I'm never looking at it as if I won't create a relationship with somebody. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. You're speaking 100% to how I operate as well. So yeah. And I think, communication in a setting like you were just in when you played that clip in the UN, I'm guessing a bunch of people watching probably in your shoes would have been very nervous, apprehensive, anxious in that setting. But when you're prepared, when you're confident, and when you know your stuff, you can be composed. You can go there and do your job and do it in a manner where you get the room to follow you and go with you, for lack of a better phrase. So, very well done. I think a lot of people would be very overwhelmed and nervous in that situation. And funny, going back to the security, I totally know what you mean. In my previous life, what I did for, 20 years prior to coming online, I used to do route sales, driving a truck with supplies and delivering them to different buildings. Downtown Boston, the United Nations there was one of my accounts. So I had to go through security on a weekly basis. Even if they know you, it doesn't matter. You still got to go through all that BS, even if you're there every week. So I totally get where you're coming from in some of those buildings. And it can be a bit daunting,
Yeah, 100%. And that's my question to you, brother. Like, because we've been rocking for a while. What do you see as far as the potential impact of a message? And before you answer that question, here's the part that I really want to emphasize and iterate. And that's the reasons why this show was established. I wasn't talking for my health. There's a $437 trillion problem out here, or we can look at it as a $437 trillion market. And I tend to look at it as a marketer, as a marketing opportunity, because those are where the problems really are. And if we can fix those problems, that's how you get paid ethically. You follow me? So it's just like, that's one of the reasons why. Because even after I got done, bro, the craziest thing about it was I could not leave the room. Like, I stayed there almost an additional hour and a half just answering questions and getting all of these setups and the high level contacts. And it's just so much stuff that even from that one thing, I'm still following up on, because what I said was really real. And when you go to identify the problems in your market, what happens is people start understanding, like, wow, this is a real blind spot. And then with that identification, it's just like the AIDA formula, right? Attention, interest, desire, and action, right? If I didn't have my attention on the reasons why my kids cannot honestly have a full generation of just like them building wealth, because it's literally a $437 trillion problem. That's globally. That means there's one full generation out here that's going to spend a whole lifetime just trying to pay back debt. That's crazy, but yet we're sitting here talking about freedom. And then when I posted on my timeline that freedom isn't free, I got some pushback, ironically. I'm just like, well, I was in the Marines, I was in a combat situation, I've been out here in the public, and now I'm at the UN. And guess what? It's the exact same problem all over the flipping place, depending upon where your awareness is. And that's all I wanted to add before you said something.
No, I mean, I think kind of everybody with a bit of common sense knows that there's a cost to freedom, 100%.
Common sense, key.
Yeah. That's why I prefaced it. But going back to your question, you said, what is the potential? Can you ask it? What is the potential of delivering a message? How did you ask it?
Well, so I'll say it again a different way. So basically, I look at it as a $437 trillion opportunity, not necessarily a $437 trillion problem. So I wanted to get your viewpoint on, from a marketing viewpoint, is that accurate or is that off?
No, I mean, I think it can be both. I mean, a lot of the messaging we create is to make people problem aware, and that's at the lowest level of sophistication. So the people in that room were probably already problem aware. You didn't need to start there. You could start talking about solutions and, and offers and everything else, actions you can take. But a lot of times with our messaging, it's to make a certain percentage of the audience aware there even is a problem. So I think you can look at it both ways. It really depends. You were going with a audience that already knows about the problem. So in that case, yeah, I'd be looking more at the opportunity.
Well, believe it or not, when I actually studied it, they aren't aware of the problem. That's why I went in that direction. Yeah.
See, you would think they are, though. Just I didn't study it, but I would think the people in that room should be aware of that problem.
No clue. Now what was interesting was in their particular countries, they were aware of something that was impacting the public. They're looking at the effect. They're not really looking at the cause of this. So when I had mentioned contracts and derivatives, I mean, these are advanced financial tools. And again, a tool is something that can be used, just for its purpose, right? But when we don't have attention on mechanisms that can cause problems, then this is the sum of the whole that we have collectively as a problem on this planet. So, that's where we were at. And that's why as soon as I got off and I started talking, and then when we were done, I spent another hour and a half just answering questions because people were just like, how did you even think of that? So that's why I said in there as a finance guy, because I understand finance from working in the automotive industry for so long. I worked on compliance and certain legislation things. It's just, It was crazy, all the levels of stuff that I did. So I have a different perspective versus somebody who's worried about payroll as a small business owner, or somebody trying to put their two-step together to try to, sell somebody online. It's just different levels of sophistication. And even at that level, there's still an issue with trade and commerce, hence the reasons why you're seeing all of these tariff wars going on right now. Like, this is a real thing, but we're seeing the effect of it. I just went from the cause viewpoint and looked at it specifically like, okay, when I studied the group, I looked at it and was like, none of these people, I'm not seeing one thing or one indicator that they know, because if they did know, which is fine, they would at least give me one action step. And that's even when I'm talking, as you know, when I'm training salespeople or working on leadership development, I'm like, give me one simple solution, but we have to clearly identify what the problem is.
Oh, totally. And to your larger question, though, without even specifying it down to your message at that particular UN conference, I think that was a great question. What's the potential that can happen from delivering a message? I think people need to think about that as well. Now, number one, when you're creating any message in your mind, the person crafting said message should have an objective. What do you want the outcome to be? What do you want the result to be? And it can be a lot of things, right? It really depends on how good we crafted this message, which audience we delivered it to. People can either become aware because of your message. They can fully support and agree with it. They can totally tune it out and say that's BS, right? When people really find a message fascinating, they're going to do what happened to you in that hour and a half after, people coming around, shaking your hand, asking questions. How'd you think of that? What can we do to solve this, right? And I think all messaging that I craft in any capacity, it kind of always comes from one of three areas. Am I going to talk about the problem? Am I going to talk about the solution? Or am I going to talk about results and outcomes? It's really all about that. And as we've both mentioned and alluded to, and for anyone watching, you need to know the sophistication level of the audience you're delivering it to know if you need to talk about the problem, the solution, or the results or the outcome. But really, that's what all good messaging that I've crafted, and that all falls under what Fred said. We were never taught or didn't really know we were doing this, but it all falls under the marketing spectrum.
Yeah, 100%. So my challenge to everybody on this planet, it's 8 billion people here, is to simply understand how communication works and also understand how to market said communication. Because until we can really get that crafted the right way, it doesn't matter if you're going straight as a business owner. It doesn't matter if you're even talking to your kids. We have a message to deliver. And if it's not crafted clearly and conspicuously, then you won't get the effect that you're trying to create. Like if you look at yourself as like a movie director, and what do movie directors do? They get the best script available. They may not know how to write the script, but they can get the idea. Then they get guys like me and Ray to craft it, in a certain way where it's going to resonate with an audience. But my point is, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Just understanding exactly what you want and more specifically how you're going to deliver it via communication. That's the reasons why the words are so important. That's the reasons why I am one of the top copywriters, just like Ray is. It's because those words are important. And it's just like dialing in a phone number. If you get one word off, it's just going to throw the whole message off. So even right now, I'm running ads for a few clients. And the craziest thing about it is it doesn't matter whether it's at the UN level or running ads or even just a simple handshake on an organic marketing level. The words matter. How you put them in order matter. How you're trying to deliver it matters. And Ray sees all the other stuff, as far as the tone, the delivery, the speech, the timbre, right? But it's still going to be those words. That's just, to me, window dressing.
Yep. No, I would agree. I'd agree 100% with that.
Yeah. So as far as like what you're seeing in the marketplace right now, we can do a complete 360 off of that if there's anything you want to add. But I really wanted people to understand, because like I said, I got my phone still has blown up. My emails has blown up. It's just crazy. And the thing about it is I still have to answer everybody. So I'm doing my best to do it on this platform. And me and Ray are going to be doing this week. Me and Ray are going to be doing this weekly on Fridays. We got a 2-hour slot. So just tune in. Let us know where you're coming from. Any questions, go to askfredsmith.com, and that way we'll be able to answer them. I don't know where it goes at right now, but that's still the website. But what we're working to do is to get our message out to the public so that you're able to really craft offers and messages that convert, or at least get the result that you want. It's not at this point in time, it's really I wouldn't say it's magic, even though it is. The reality of it is you just have it's really skills, and skills can be learned.
Yeah, 100%. Rather than, as we were talking about earlier, tactics have a certain place where they were working, a certain implementation, but outside of that, they're relatively useless, especially if you don't know the overarching frameworks and how to ad-lib and put things together yourself. I mean, a lot of the tactics being taught out there are copy and paste messages, or how to put, irresistible guarantees into your offer. Why would you have to put a guarantee so great that somebody is going to put their guard down and buy your product because they're so confident in getting their money back if they don't get X result? Like, think about it. I always go back to a comedy movie that came out in the mid-90s called Tommy Boy, where there's a scene from there where they're selling these brake pads, right? The name of the factory is Callahan Auto Parts, right? And have you seen the movie? I think you're cracking up. Yeah. Whether you have or haven't, it's pretty funny.
It's a good movie.
Cool. I thought so. But there's this one scene where they're trying to sell their brake pads, and the auto parts store owner's like, "There's no guarantee on the box. My customers need to see that guarantee looking at them so they feel all warm and cozy and they'll purchase." And then the sales rep for that, he's like, "Hey, why do you think they put a guarantee on the box? Because all they did was guarantee they sold you a piece of shit." He goes, "I could go take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed, or you could buy a good brake part from me," right? So like, that's why people are throwing these crazy guarantees, because they're actually offering you garbage.
Yeah. 100%.
They're just trying to wrap a crappy a crappy offer in some shiny bow value, right? With that offer, that's all with that guarantee, I should say. Whereas what Fred and I do, and one of my areas of expertise specifically, is offer creation. Matter of fact, I did another one-on-one session this week, just helped this guy who's been stuck, and very good expert and has great experience and great background, but just so much going on in his head, he couldn't put together a clear, concise offer and know how to package it, price it, position it, and then show the perceived value to the marketplace. We sat together for about 45 minutes. He did one exercise. We had it done. I pitched it back to him at the end of the call. He's like, "Holy shit, I just never had it this simple and clear." I was like, "You see what happens when you have a clear message? People understand it, and if they understand it, they will buy it. If they don't understand it, there's a phrase that's been coined a long time ago: a confused mind won't buy." That's never been more true.
Boom. Bro, you said so much. That's why I'm smiling ear to ear, because we can unpack a lot from what you just said right now. So the thing about the thing about it, though, is that's what I'm saying. When you got this kind of flow, I want to talk about knowledge gaps right now, because me and you, especially when we were working in PDocs together, and I know we're still doing that, but it's just like literally, like, the jamming part is getting people to know what they don't know and communicating it in a way where it really pops somebody out of their head. Like, Steve Jobs was really good at doing that kind of stuff. It's the reasons why people will go around the corner waiting for an iPhone. And even when I was in New York, I saw a billboard where it was just one camera upgrade. It's just like people are like still going around the corner. It's just because that's the way that these mechanisms work when you really understand them. And to Ray's point, that's the reasons why you have to understand like strategy. That's what I do. From a very high level, I've learned this stuff in the Marines. And the thing about it, though, is that the tactics come as a result of you understanding strategy. And this is what the gurus don't talk about. It's okay to do some guru bashing, because the reality of it is some of these guys don't know what they were doing. And again, me and Ray have talked about this, so we say this with much love, is that you still have to make up for the damage just because you didn't know. It's just like when I was in the car game, and I've only did one or two things where I was just like, oh man, I didn't know I shouldn't have done that. You follow me? So I made up for the damage. It's the exact same thing on the online world. And that's one of the reasons why now in the online space now more than ever, compliance is such a big issue, is because all of those people from the alphabet are in there right now. You know, IRS, FTC, FCC, you know what I'm saying? Like we can keep going and everybody's acting like that's brand new. And I'm just like, it's not brand new. Like all you had to do was just understand that your words carry weight in the first place. And that's the reasons why I say that it was probably more of a knowing problem than a doing problem. So some people don't agree with me when I say, hey, regulation is important. I say to an extent, not to ruin the creativity, but to literally provide a solid foundation. It's no different than when you're trying to establish a business. You have to have certain rules and laws in place because it does create an agreement with what your expectations are in relation to what the audience expects. And if you don't have that in writing, then it can cause problems because people are so persuasive. And I'll say this and I'll shut up. Like literally, when I first got into the car game, when you bought a car, it used to be like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Now it's about as wide as this screen and 6 feet long. And you've got licensing all over the place just because they're trust issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's one reason. I'll say it a little different way than Fred, maybe a little more direct. We'll also do some guru bashing on here because they deserve it. I'll just leave it at
that. I told you, Ray Super 100. Well, you know, the thing about it is my whole goal is to get everybody on the same page on this planet. And here's why. Because when you understand that we're all connected by the air we breathe, then what happens is you have a stronger why on this planet. Like my strong why when I was first in the Marine Corps was not marketing and advertising. I don't like marketing and advertising for the record. I just happen to be really good at it because my whole goal is that I really want to communicate with people. So when I was going through all of those high-level military schools, the first lesson that I learned was that the microphone's always on. And then the second lesson that I learned, and this is back in 1996, and the second lesson that I learned was that we have to speak as though we're speaking to 5 billion people, because that's how many people it was at that point in time back in 96. Obviously, it's grown since then up to 8 billion people. But the reality of it is I've always thought globally, but I also understand that we have to think locally. I think the problem with the online marketing space is that we don't think that there is an online or an offline, because most people are in their own bubbles, as you know. Like there's a whole bunch of different groups out there. They all have their different opinions and viewpoints. And what that creates, though, is an echo chamber of really human consciousness and how people move on this planet. So you think it's okay to just communicate a certain way. And again, it's not to make anybody wrong. It's literally how we've been trained. But I know I've been trained better, and I know I've been trained on a higher level. So it's like, that's wrong. It's no differently than with my dogs, right? Me and you have had this conversation before. If I'm training my dogs, the reasons why training works is because not only do I understand their language, but I'm speaking a language above them in order to control the situation. So when my dog tells me to sit, and you've got a dog too, you know how it is. They go, oh man, I gotta sit. Oh, how is he making me sit? You know, it's like, how is that even possible, right? But that's my whole point as far as communication goes. Like we have to be able to understand that some mechanisms can hurt and some mechanisms can heal. And if you're in this point now where you're trying to earn an honest dollar, then you have to understand how being ethical works, period.
Yeah, 100%. No, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, I've always kind of operated that way, you know. But going back to what you were saying about, you know, you don't really like marketing and advertising. You just happen to be really good at it. I happen to like marketing. I don't like advertising as much. There's a difference between the two. Advertising is a component within marketing. I'm not huge on the whole advertising thing. I really do like and love marketing. And I never even realized how much marketing I did when I was in my own bubble and before I got into this space and before I really learned about marketing. I always kind of had a negative perception on marketing to an extent, the way a lot of people do on sales. But I was kind of born with the skill or the gift of gab. My mom has been telling me since I was in kindergarten. I've always enjoyed talking. But throughout the years, especially Fred says, like a lot of people, Fred brought up a minute ago, are in their own bubble. And that's really true. I was in my own bubble for like 20 years before. At that point, I should say, I didn't realize what was possible outside of that bubble. Didn't even know, you know, there was a lot of things possible, but I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. And I also didn't know what was out there in terms of how much money, how much of a market, how many people need help, and how many people have poor, wrong, bad, or just lack of information.
Yeah. No, I want to go a little bit deeper into the reasons why I don't like marketing and advertising. The reasons why I don't like it is because it's been commoditized to the point where it's been devalued. So the way that I move is completely different than the way a marketer moves. I was not trained on marketing first. I was trained on high level leadership, period. Like when you understand how leadership works from a very high level, the outcome is how you move, which is called marketing. That's why I'm saying that. Like when I first learned how to become a leader was when I was 13 years old. It was the American Red Cross Leadership Development Center. I got sponsored because I'm from, I was from Chester, PA. So I went to like a 5-day class on leadership, and I didn't even know why I was there. You know what I'm saying? Somebody was just like, "Hey, we think you're a leader, and come on in, and it's free, and blah blah blah." My mom was like, "Free, okay," So we went that way, and then for 5 days, I learned high level communication skills. When I was 13, I learned how to like how a room works and the different setups for a room, and I learned the Myers-Briggs stuff, and I found out that I was like an ENTJ, if you know what the Myers-Briggs stuff is, which is a general. So it helped me define how I should move. Now, today's marketers, in most cases, because I train on leadership, and they wonder why their business is stuck, it's because they've been so manipulative and so far into the weeds of it, learning all of these tactics, that they don't understand a tactic known as a tactic blown. And every single time that you put a tactic out there, other people are naturally going to want to do the exact same thing because it's working. But when their business breaks, it's because they're lacking vision and they're lacking leadership. So that's why I start from the top down, because the outcome should be how you market, not necessarily starting to market to just make money. We all want to make money, but how do you sustain what you're doing? That requires you having a purpose. That requires you having a mission, and it also requires you having leadership skills so that you can understand how to market, how to advertise, how to communicate. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah. Talk a little more. I'm curious. I'd love to hear more about what you mean, or maybe even go in as far as to like when this might have changed. But you said marketing and advertising has been devalued. Elaborate on that a little. I'd like to discuss that a little more.
100%. So I appreciate that. So here's what happened. So the internet got started around April 30th, 1993. So I want to say, if the word, when I first saw it, the word was deployed, because the originator of the internet was CERN. Okay. CERN's a bunch of high level scientists and people in Switzerland, right? So they were already using this system internally before they deployed it externally as what we know as the internet. Okay.
Yep.
So if you look at how the internet originally works, the internet was an internal marketing tool. What they did was they had internal documents that they would share all around the world. And it was actually, because in the military, it's called an intranet. And if you're working in high level organizations that have their own internal website, their internal internet, it's called an intranet. Okay. So that's the only thing that I look at the internet as, is like the super plug. What it does is you put one thing out, and based on how it searches, it'll help you find. That's why Google exists, right? Because it's helping people connect the dots. So understanding how movement works help you understand how you should market. And this is where people miss that. So what happens is, as a result of there being no real formal training like I was, bro, I have over 1,200 hard military hours on my record book, telling me that I now understand how this thing called the internet works. That's the reasons why I'm saying it with such authority, is because I was actually trained on it. So when you see it from that viewpoint, when I was getting out the Marine Corps back in 99, I was just like, what I do is not considered marketing and sales. It's just like, what are we talking about? But it was the closest thing at that point in time that was considered from what I did to, and when I was leaving out of the military, which was considered sales and marketing. So I had to decode all of that experience that I had, all the training that I had, all of the development that I had, all the award-winning stuff that I had, into a market that was not only underdeveloped, quite frankly, it was still a lot of babble because people weren't understanding how marketing works. Now, you did have some savvy marketers around 1999 with the internet market, like the marketing Warriors Forum back in 99. That was one of the very first organized places where they're trying to teach you. And then you had a whole bunch of gurus who took on to that and they started learning what was working. Like I was one of the first SEO guys. Like there was this concept called keyword stuffing back in the day, where you would take those words and try to attract the right people based on what you were selling, right? That's the reasons why SEO is so important to me, because I understood from a very earlier moment how to take those words and commoditize them. Today's marketers look at a book, they look at recommended books, they don't understand that those tactics are outdated. They're trying to apply them, and they apply a certain amount of force and manipulation that devalues the market, because that particular base of information is already out there. And what it would require in order for that to convert people is a lower sophisticated market. So what that's implying is that, hey, you're not smart enough to know what I'm doing, so therefore I'm going to apply this tactic right here and take the money from you. That's why I say a tactic known as a tactic blown, because you know it from an audience sophistication viewpoint, that once they come up here, all the stuff that the person was doing to them there is no longer working. So now they have to find another market. So as an example of that, we have what they call the biz op market, the business opportunity market. It's one of the most now heavily regulated industries on the online marketing space. But before it wasn't like that. It was the wild west. On the offline marketing world, it's known as network marketing. Like there's a lot of similarities when you start putting together. But in order to really crush this problem once and for all, you have to understand how leadership works. You have to understand how people move, and you have to understand what people really want and need and are willing to invest in ethically, and then right to that. That's what I do. That's what you do. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all that. And you brought up something just in the last segment that I jotted down, and I knew we would touch on at some point. But I think a lot of people are lacking the vision, of what they want for their business, what they want from their marketing, what they want from their advertising, all these components. It really starts with their own vision and the business vision, but then there's all those smaller objectives or pieces within that, right? So a lot of what you and I do comes from and stems from helping people, if they haven't already articulated and laid it out to us, helps them recapture that vision or find it for the first time. And they probably had it, but they've never elaborated it and put it into their messaging and got people to stand behind their vision, right? Which ties right in with another component that makes what you and I do and the people we work with successful with their marketing and advertising is they also have leadership characteristics, or we show them what they need to do to lead properly, and they understand the why behind all this. Like, there's a vision. Why is that your vision? There's a revenue goal. Why is that the revenue goal? There should always be an objective why behind that, right? That is kind of ironclad as a goal to the larger vision, the revenue goal, and every aspect I just brought out. So I think that's why what you and I do, and where we differentiate or separate from some of those other gurus that are teaching baseline, marketing tactics out of books. Like, again, that stuff is still valuable, but if you don't have the right vision, the right leadership, the right why behind it, and you don't have the vision, again, to craft your message with a specific objective, none of those tactics are going to come together.
100%. And that was one of the reasons why we launched From Vision to Victory. That part right there. Because the hardest part that people have to realize and eat is the fact that they don't know a lot. Because here's the problem. If you look at Robert Kiyosaki's quadrant, right? And if you really subscribe to that, it's employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. Okay. And there's subsets in between. But when we look at the whole thing collectively, it does add to this $437 trillion problem. We're still talking about a market audience sophistication problem. If I'm an employee trying to become a business owner and I don't understand the language, I don't understand the movement, I still have the mindset problems, which is why we have Tayu on squad, right? Yeah. The problem is that we don't understand what it takes to go. Like, if we're playing baseball and I hit that ball, okay, I have to learn how to hit the ball first. I have to understand what a baseball field is. I have to understand the rules of baseball. I have to understand what the outcome is and why we're playing the game. Then when I get up to bat, finally, and I go to hit that ball, how do I go from first base to second base? And what I just explained a little in the last 30 seconds is what people don't train on, which is the reasons why we have such a problem globally with this. Because if you look at the big belly ache from all the marketing and advertising out there, there's literally just in itself almost $1 trillion annually of wasted ad spend, period. So that's whether that's via video, whether it's via online and offline marketing for the advertising, it all adds up to almost $1 trillion annually. That's a problem in itself. That's because people aren't communicating. It's confusion. That's why I said the word war means confusion. We are at war. It's just like when you look at the definition of campaigns as an advertising guy, right? The word campaign literally comes from the military world. It's everything that's going on right now is very militant, which is the reasons why when I stopped traveling for so long and my wife got sick, I was just like, man, I cannot believe I'm actually leaning back on my military skills just to earn $1. It's crazy. But see, the world's been indoctrinated into this since April 30th of 1993, which is why we have to understand how history works. And if you look at the problem back then, we didn't have a $430 trillion problem back in 1993. We didn't. So if we have all of this technology, we've got this tech stacks, and we've got all of this marketing, we've got all of this advertising, why do we have this huge blind spot that has literally ensnared a full generation of servitude? I have questions, because that's exactly what's going on right now. Now, we can say, sure, we printed more money, we did this and we did that. I totally get all of that stuff. But the reality of it is we were and still are in form of the information age, which means that we should have this information so that we can make intelligent decisions, because that is going to affect our marketing. That is going to affect our advertising. If I'm a business owner, especially a small business owner who can't make payroll, but yet I'm trying to trust somebody to help me out with my marketing and advertising because I don't understand it, that's a problem, bro. Just saying.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make a lot of sense to do it that way. And like you said, I have questions. So do a lot of people when it comes to that stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah. And it's because the amount of information being put out, the amount of repeated, just copy and paste information being put out. It's the amount of unvetted information being put out. You know what I mean? It's just a lot being shoved down people's throats, and no matter what they're looking for, they're like, what's accurate, what's not, who do I listen to, and who do I actually take what they're saying. I think you have to build up a level of trust nowadays for somebody to take what you're saying and go implement it and apply it into their business life, what have you. So yeah, no, it's a good point.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And again, let's make those delineations right now. What is the difference between information? What is the difference between noise? What is the difference between propaganda? Because see, why is it weird? It seems so strange to me that I'm able to just walk into the UN and be like, hey, we got a $437 trillion problem. Like, does anybody notice this? Like, and again, it's no dig, but understand we are all in our own separate universes. We all have our own things going on. So of course there's going to be this huge blind spot because something else is capturing our attention. It's just like when I'm training dealers, bro, or anybody in our space. It's just like, if you want money, you got to focus in on it. If you don't want money, then don't focus in on it. Like, it's just that simple. You got to make a certain amount of phone calls. You got to make a certain amount of offers. You got to make a certain amount of enrollments. It's just math at a certain point in time. But if we aren't all on the same page, then how can we get exactly what we want? Because not everybody's money driven. You know, some people are mission driven. Some people are purpose driven. Some people don't want to have anything to do with that. And they just want to pour coffee. And that's what I'm saying. We have to honor where people are. And this is the reasons why sometimes I say I don't like marketing, is because we've been trained. Oh, well, if you want to pour people's coffee, you're pond scum. It's like, no, some people just want to do that. You know, there's this one girl in Hawaii, when I used to travel there all the time, she knew exactly what I wanted every single time I sat down. I didn't have to give her my itinerary. When I went to the hotel, she saw me, she smiled, gave her a hug. She was like, the usual? I'm like, yeah, the usual. Now, how does she know that? And she has thousands of people who go to that exact same hotel every single year. It's because she's a master of what she does. Yeah. She doesn't want to do anything else. She's happy. You follow me? And that's the ultimate goal of what I want to do. I just want people to be happy. You know, however you define happy, but you have to market to happy. That's the part where I do align with marketing in the respect that the whole reasons why we're looking online for something is because we're looking to be happy. We're looking for a mission or a purpose, or we're trying to fill a want or a need. So that has been hijacked by very savvy, unscrupulous and manipulative marketing, bro. That's all I'm saying on that.
Oh, you're right about that. You're right about that. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That doesn't give me the same maybe poor taste in my mouth about marketing as you. I totally get what you're saying, but you and I still don't have to do it that way where we make people feel like crap for pouring coffee. Like, I understand some people are happy with that. And we need people that pour coffee. We need people that sweep streets. We need people that do all that stuff. So I don't look down on people that don't look at other opportunities or are happy where they're at. But you're right. A lot of the people position it and portray it that way. If you're just an hourly employee, you're a wasteless piece of crap and you're never going to get anywhere in life. It's like, if somebody's happy with that, you shouldn't knock it one bit.
Bro, look at the marketing and advertising. You will see it all over the place. And that's my point. And it's not necessarily a poor taste in my mouth in as much as wanting people to have their legacy how they want to have it. You follow me? Like I'm a firm believer in people crafting their narrative that they really want. And here's the problem with what I'm saying, bro. This goes back to what I said at the UN, dude. This is so incredible. If I've been indoctrinated into a system where I don't even know that I've been indoctrinated, then how am I really controlling my life? I'm Generation X, bro. So Generation X, I can pick up and I don't need my phone on me all the time. I can get away from this thing. I can enjoy life, with my kids. If things aren't here from Amazon by 10 p.m., they're losing their minds. You follow me? That is not normal, bro. It's just
I agree. Wait till the next freaking day, right? But yeah,
and again, let's go into the physics of this. Like, let's go into physical reality on this, because that's how people get addictions, is because literally their synapses are getting blown out of their head, which is the reasons why people are gaining weight. They need to be able to lose, like they're losing sleep, they're stressed because they're comparing themselves to things that may or may not be even sustainable. It's no different than if you're trying to go to like watch a workout video. You got the pros in there, and the reasons why they're doing it is because they're the pros. They're setting a high standard, but they've done that once, right?
Yeah, no,
your body's going to break down if you keep looking at that same video. That same video is going to keep that energy there forever. You know what I'm saying? And here you are thinking that you got to continually do it that way forever. That's why they give you this big legal disclaimer up front to say, hey, we're not responsible for you not understanding that we did this once and we monetized it, but yet you're trying to do it like this every single day. That's all I see when I'm looking at those disclaimers, bro. I'm just like, what are we talking about right now? Like, people don't understand these small things. And like another example would be when McDonald's literally had to put on their warning, this water is hot. It's just like crazy because somebody burned themselves and now they're trying to sue for millions of dollars. It's just like that movie. What's the movie with the guys who came out with the Crocs?
You're talking about Ray Kroc from McDonald's, the founder?
No, the actual.
Oh, no, the shoes, the Crocs. Okay. I thought you were talking about Ray Kroc from McDonald's. I was like, I just watched that recently, so that was on my mind. I know when you're talking about
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. That's definitely it. That's so funny you brought that one up.
Yeah. When I first saw Idiocracy, bro, I did not find it funny. I'm like, this is a documentary because we've been indoctrinated to think like that. And the reasons why I can see through it is because I've been hermetically sealed for 20 plus years working with nothing but 7 to 10 figure business earners where we don't care about any of that stuff. It's like, what's on the P&L, what's on the balance sheet, and what do we need to do next with our campaigns to make sure that that we're growing. Like, that's all that I did for 20 years, bro. So when I left that lane to come into a lane where there's nothing but confusion, I'm like, wow. Wow. Like, even one time I went to the auto show a few years back, my wife thought I was angry. She's like, you look mad. I'm like, no, like, this is the work that I've done, but I never was on the front end of it to see exactly how people are like engaging with the work. You follow me? There's a difference because it's what's known as an end user economy. So even for these marketers and advertisers, they do the exact same thing, bro. They create these campaigns. They don't know how the campaign's really going to work out in the market, if it's going to go viral. And then when it does, it could go viral in a negative way, like with Ye and this thing that he just did, right? It's just like, that's crazy, bro. Like, like, what are we thinking right now? Like, but this is the indoctrination process that everybody is going through, whether they like it or not. But what I want to present to the world is that we do have choice. We can use discernment. If you're awake, then understand that you have a choice. But we have to be able to understand exactly what the choices are. No differently than going into like the Mercedes store and you're going to the AMG selection side, right? So what happens is when you buy an AMG, they sit you down. Hey, here are the different leathers. What kind of leather do you want? Here are the 6 different like wheels. You know, here are the trim, like all that stuff, right? They sit you down for that. That's what I want. That's what I want us to do. I want us to sit down with people who are awake in the world and go, hey, okay, great. You know, you've been in a car accident. It's just like, all right, you know, you got to get your stuff fixed. Like exactly what are you trying to do? How are you trying to move? That's why we created From Vision to Victory. That part right there, bro, because we cracked the code when it came down to going from A to Z, end to end, to really understanding how to cut through all of this noise right now so that you can really have a message that resonates.
Yeah, and I think part of that, you know, goes back to what we were talking about earlier and what we do at PDocs, a big part with knowledge gaps. And another huge component that I think is very under taught and talked about is understanding your prospect sophistication level and how aware they are of things. Goes back to, if you saw me looking down the last couple of minutes, I was trying to find a specific post going back to that. This guy that runs a relatively large Facebook group, he's got about 28,000 members. And then on his personal timeline, where I'm looking now at this post that made me think of this, he has about 10,000 followers. So guy's got a decent following in a good sized group online. He had posted a screenshot last week here in this post. And again, you guys don't need to read it. I'll go through it real quick, but you could probably see the screenshot there where he's making fun of horrible outreach nowadays. That is all just copy and paste. So the initial message coming from the DM appointment setter or the VA or whoever's sending it is, thank you for connecting, space. How's it going? Question mark. Can I ask a question? So like, number one, you just asked me a question when you said, how's it going? Then can I ask a question? Well, that's another question in itself. It's very unclear, but his reply is just mocking this. He's got a little like, you know, hyphen mark and then a bullet point. I'm doing good. Not much, just busy working and spending time with the fam. Thank you. I do what I can. No, I don't really have time to jump on a call. Yes, I saw the group invite you sent me. No, there's nothing I need right now. Yes, I did see your great client result. No, I don't think we need to schedule a call for later either. Yes, I'll keep you in mind. No, I don't know anyone that would benefit from your product or services. Like, this guy's just replying with a rundown of everything that he knows is about to get asked and the next call to action. So as I go on to say below in his post, which he happened to like and totally agree with my comment, I said below, it's all about knowing the sophistication level of the person receiving the message and crafting it to connect with them individually. Unfortunately, nobody teaches and or emphasizes this enough. He was like, yeah, that's spot on what's happening. But I was like, for me, if I knew I was connecting and doing outreach to a guy with a Facebook group of 28,000 people that's got a following of 10,000 people, that would not be my outreach message. Hey, nice to connect. How's it going? Can I ask you a question? I'd say, hey, man. Hey, Mark, nice to connect here. Looks like you did a great job. Looks like you're the creator of this group on Facebook, whatever it's called, yada, yada, yada. And you got about 28,000 members. Congratulations. And I see you have another 10,000 members here that you're following. I'm curious, Mark, what's led to this success? And what would you say is the number one driver behind that? Now, if I started a conversation like that, almost guarantee you he's going to reply and engage, as opposed to the way the other person did. So number one, it's about knowing who you're reaching out to and then crafting that message to speak to them in a way that's going to intrigue them. It's going to be all about them, and they're going to be highly likely to want to or likely to reply.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I want to walk through that a little bit longer, because my question would be, like, because I used to get in fight with some of the very well-known gurus online who would say, well, he's just reaching out. At least he reached out. It's like, no, bro. Like, literally what we're talking about is attention. So when you're wasting attention units like that, you may not have a second shot. Maybe this guy really does have a good offer, but it's all in the delivery that really messed that thing up, and not understand the basic rules and principles that we train on, to your point. Like they don't understand that, bro. And again, this is the problem that we're having. If you take that and you multiply that times 8 billion people, it is called noise. That's the train wreck that we're experiencing right now. That is not scalable. What is being scaled right now is the confusion with all of that stuff. And like you said, like you just went through all the bullet points and pre-anticipating, one person was more sophisticated than the other. So what happens is it becomes more of a combat situation versus a communication situation. So that was very eloquently put. The way that you just did it was because that's the problem that we're literally up against. It doesn't matter whether it's a DM, an email, face to face. It's if we have words going from point A to point B, then they need to be crafted a certain way. But that requires the thought behind it, which is the reasons why. And he learned that from somebody, because me and you, again, know some good gurus. And they like, well, this still works. No, what you're doing is you're selling the opportunity by telling how much money that you made versus saying, hey, I will teach and train you this, because that's really how that's how the hustle works. Hey, you want to know how I made, $2 million in 30 days? Click the link below to learn more. Oh my God, it worked for you. Do you see how you went through my funnel? And for $10,000, I'll train you on that. It's all BS, bro.
Oh, it is. And they take you through that whole law of average. That's their whole spiel with that. If you send 100 of these a day, 10 people would reply, 2 people will book a call, you'll close one by the end of the week, there's 10 grand. It's like all this law of average. But I teach, and what you and I teach, especially in one of the programs that you've helped me with, and I've been running for a while, called DM Center Academy, where we work with people who just send out, or organic messaging, cold messaging, warm messaging. But we don't teach that law of average. We teach quality over quantity, how you could send 10 or 15 messages a day and actually be sending them to the right person and sending them so they hit and they get a reply. Like you said, I think a lot of people don't realize how many opportunities and how many messages, whether it's email, whether it's DM, doesn't matter. Like you said, it's still wasted opportunity. And you can't think, oh, well, at least I'm trying and I'm doing outreach. What's trying and doing poor anything? Outreach in this case. I tried and I did it poorly. So you want me to pat you on the back for that? Or if you're going to try it, how about you do it well and effective and in a way that actually connects with somebody? Like, I really go out of my way to build a personal connection with somebody before I ever talk about what I do or my pitch or anything like that. I want to be friends with these people, and that's who I want to work with too. Like you said, I always have the goal to network and build a relationship. If it turns into a working relationship, great. But if not, so be it. I have somebody else in my network that has a great skill set or a different audience or, something that ultimately adds to my total value as well. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's the problem that we're experiencing, bro. This is literally the problem that you're demonstrating in real time. Like we have technology that can actually help somebody. The question is, are they willing to learn? Are they willing to turn a wrench? And most people will say no. They may say that they want it, but that's the difference between somebody actually doing the successful actions necessary in order to get it. And a lot of these guys online and offline understand that, which is the reasons why they make more money selling the shovels, not necessarily helping people get the gold. That's the reasons why this agency exists, is because hands down, I want us to really coach people in live real time here on this channel, on this platform. I want people to understand that they can come and we can take a look at their stuff in real time. That is single-handedly one of the things that still works, is because we're demonstrating, just like you did in real time, how this game works. I don't want any excuses about somebody out there going, oh my God, there's no honest people out here. It's like, no, we're on a channel. Let's start out. It's me and Ray. We're not the only ones out here. But for the most part, what we want to be able to do is, again, you got the right to be stupid. Just don't abuse your privilege. And if you want to make that transition and that change to actually grow, then you got to step up and just grow. And this is the problem, bro. And that's one of the reasons why even on page 80 of that creator's book, I went through the whole thing. There's only 168 hours in a week. It's called math at that point in time. When they learn what we teach and they turn a wrench, they're going to get the result. The problem that we have is, again, people don't like marketing. They hate that word. People don't like selling. They hate that word. I love it because that's how I earn my living, but I also understand that that's an outcome. It's not the intention. Just like you said, you want to make friends first. You really want to see if this person is really, why should they even be breathing in the same air as you? And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's called lead segmentation. Not everybody's going to be a good fit for your communication. Everybody comes in and out of season. Some people just aren't ready. You've got some people who will just say yes to anything because they don't care. There are some people who just say no to anything because they just don't care. Just like, but when you understand that you can't be everything to everybody, that's when you start getting that traction. But even when you understand that, you still have to understand, like you mentioned about literally an hour ago, that you have to step back and actually understand the structures of things, like how this works. You got to be able to really understand that here's what you're up against. Here's the playing field. Yep. And this is exactly how you turn that wrench to get that result. That's all, bro.
Yeah. And one thing you and I do that probably goes a step further than some of the less ethical service providers and gurus online is we'll go an extra step to tell people what's required of them and disqualify them if they're not ready to put their foot down and get to work. Well, hey, if you're not willing to send this many messages, to sit there and write this copy, to sit there and do the offer, like everything that's required, and we'll lay it out and build the proper expectations before we ever work with you or take a payment or take your money. And if it's apparent or you are very honest that you're not willing to put in the work, we won't work with you. We won't make you an offer where other people are like, oh, well, I'm sure if you don't give me all the effort that I'm required, you'll still get results. I'll still take your money. It's like, no, we won't operate that way. We only want to work with winners, and we just want to help them win faster, expedite the process, overcome the trial and error and the learning curve that Fred and I paid tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands to go through. And some of it we learned on our own. Some of it we paid to skip that step and not have to learn it the hard way. And every big lesson that I paid to learn was much better of an investment than figured out for myself. It would have took me way more time and money that way than paying, even on deals I wasn't happy about. One $15,000 program I bought. So what? I still learned a few things that it probably would have cost me more in the opportunity cost and the time I put into figuring it out for myself, even if I didn't feel like it was a great purchase. So, I think we've talked about this on previous, conversations, you and I, Fred, but when you buy from a information product, from a guru, from a business coach, from whatever, there's always going to be pros and cons. Some of those you're not going to be happy with or are going to say, hey, it wasn't worth the price. Some you're going to be like, wow, they only charged me $297 for that course and I learned $20,000 worth of knowledge, right? You got to take the good with the bad. But one of my biggest takeaways and something I've passed down to all my students and clients is no matter how much you pay somebody or who you're paying or what content they're giving you, it's still your own business that you're embedding that into. So you need to vet that information. Just because a guru says, here, take this and do it, that doesn't mean I just copy and paste it and throw it in my business because somebody told me to. Now, if I run it through my brain, I cross-check it, it makes sense, and it sounds like me and the way I want to be portrayed, okay, maybe I would copy and paste it. But you know what? Almost every message that was ever handed to me in some templated copy and paste, go embed this into your business, I never did it because I was like, I wouldn't talk like this. This doesn't sound like me. I was ready to puke when I read it, but now you want me to replicate this in my business when I don't even believe it? Like, no, I see what you're trying to do. Let me deconstruct it and recreate it in my own verbiage, that's gonna actually represent me. And Fred said something earlier in the call. Take this. As anything in life, this has its pros and cons, but one of my core values that I embed into how I operate, but also all my businesses, is I'm very unfiltered. I'll talk about any subject. I'll tell you my feelings on it. It's cost me some relationships and some people in the past, but so be it. It's the way I'm wired, and I think it does more good for me than bad because it helps me attract like-minded individuals and I don't want to categorize, but not the weaker people that just aren't willing to put in the work or aren't willing to do what I am willing to do, no matter anything. Right now, you've seen me lately, Fred. I've been on kind of an exercise kick, trying to get, 10, 15, 20, 30 miles walked per week. When I put my mind to something, even on days I feel off, I posted a story last week where I'm like, I just wasn't feeling it today. But I was like, I said in this, I was like, I had my boy Tom Brady in my head saying, hey, if you want to be great at anything, you got to get out there and put in the work, even on the days you feel like shit. Remember, put in the work that 90% of people aren't willing to do so you can live and get the results of the 10% that really, want to achieve greatness. And that is how I operate and how I show up in my business, in my life, in personal things, whether it's relationships, exercise, just goals of mine. And we know there's a lot of people that aren't wired like that. You know what I mean?
I do. And you had mentioned something earlier why I started laughing so hard, because I remember one time we had a couple offers where we had to triple and quadruple filter them because we had such a response. We had 2 disqualifiers, a setter disqualifier. It was just like crazy because the reality of it is I don't want my time wasted. And the thing about it is time is precious to me. That's my highest and best value, which is the reasons why, when me and Ray are talking to you, we've already done a lot of the hard work and heavy lifting to know exactly who we're for, who won't work with us, but we also train and develop you on that, because the problem that I'm seeing and that Ray is seeing is that when you get out here, whatever training and development you get, you've got to make it your own. But you got to get the right information in the first place, because if you don't, that's how you start running all of this negative growth. Because I've invested over $1 million personally just in this lane. That's not including all the other training that I've had. The problem is, and the problem is the only reason I got there was because I was getting more bad information than I was getting good information. And as smart as I am, What I do understand is that there are going to be people who are going to continually gatekeep information because it's the only thing they have. They are literally the one-trick ponies. That's one of the reasons why me and you, like a few weeks back, we were like, you know what, bro? We actually run an agency. We're like, yeah, we run an agency because we have just we've gotten so good at all of this stuff. And you've watched me. I've trained over 4,000 agencies. You've trained thousands of agencies. We've trained tens of thousands of people together. We've done over more than 100 million in cash collected in all of our stuff. That's not even including the offline stuff that I've done. We're kind of a big deal. So I don't like to really beat my chest like that. But what I do want to do is let everybody know that it's a skill and the skill can be learned. And when you really understand that, then the next step is to really take massive and immediate action to really go out there and get it yourself. One thing that I'm really good at is cutting through noise. I've been trained to cut through noise. I've had to cut through propaganda in the Marine Corps when I was doing my job. It's just like, what are we talking about right now? So some of those tactics are more online than they are offline because it's a little bit harder to move offline. It's almost like playing poker. You can play poker at a poker room or you can play poker online. The difference is online, you get 200 hands an hour, and offline, you might be lucky to get 20, maybe even 15, right? But it's the same game. It's just the accelerated speed on that we have to look at. And that's the reasons why speed is power. And that's why it was called speed scaling to begin with. I have businessscaling.com. I'm the one who founded the term business scaling back in 2014. I actually got the guy who will come on and talk about the story. And then from there, I saw people jumping on that intellectual property. I'm like, that's cool. That was supposed to be open source anyway. I went from business scaling to speed scaling, which is the greatest hits. Now I got people on LinkedIn trying to jump on that as well. I'm like, I don't care. All I want to do is let you guys know. Right. It's just like me and Ray are like literally 40 years ahead of the curve.
A lot of people try to kick us off and knock us off with stuff.
Dude, we haven't even talked about the AI stuff yet. That's the craziest thing about it. Man, you haven't even talked about that. Like, I've had the AI stuff for almost a year now, building it out on our own platform and haven't even had a chance to do that. And the first time, it's just mind-blowing where we're at. So at some point in time, we have to slow down, which is what me and Ray are doing to let the other humans on this planet know that
we'll give you a chance to catch up for a little while.
Right. It's just like we've had to, like, Ray has watched me set up what we call mission control in certain brands because we're just moving so far. Tell him about that, Ray. Brands. Like, literally, did we not have to set up mission control? It's crazy.
Yeah, no.
Tell him about mission control, bro. I mean, so that's the thing about it.
It's doing what you said. It's taking a step back and slowing down because something's growing so fast and setting up the right structures, the right foundations, and making sure there's alignment, communication, and vision within the business owners down to the employees. And it's something the brands I've been fortunate enough to be a co-owner of a build. It's something that's happened in almost all of them. We get we get a good speedy growth, but then something breaks or fractures because we missed at least one, if not more, of those communication, alignment, vision, something within ownership and the whole culture, for lack of a better phrase, just didn't get blended together and trickled down. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's one of the reasons why I look at what we're doing right here as being mission control. So what I want to be able to do is connect the people who really want to do something big in this life, the real savage leaders, the ones who are looking for the right information, come on the show. They can pop open their businesses in real time. They can give us a fake business. I don't care. What I'm looking for are people who want to get traction and they can watch us go to work, and in exchange for that, what I'm expecting them to do is to actually get a result in their local community and really help their local community. It is so important that we understand that there's so many mechanisms that are adding to this $437 trillion problem that we have. I want what we're doing to be what is known as a self-liquidating offer, which means everything goes to zero. My self-liquidating offer is real simple. I've been very transparent about it. I want people to understand how communication really works, and I want them to be able to turn a wrench a certain way with their words so that they can get the result. Like even all the AI stuff that you saw earlier, I'm like prompt engineering. Some people don't even know what prompt engineering is. To me, the better prompt engineers are the better copywriters because they understand how words work. When you understand how words really work, then the game is halfway done. The other part of the game is getting organized, see what you value. And I've been in brands, and that's one of the reasons why we have the other stuff going on in From Vision to Victory, where I've created it and I'm miserable because it's not quite what I wanted. It became strange fruit out the gate. Like, Yeah, because when you know for a fact that you can hit and not miss, when you look at some of the bigger brands out there like Disney and Netflix and all these other brands, guys, they have a formula. It works. So they're not the only ones with this formula on the planet. You just have to decide, do you want to be a creator or do you want to be a consumer? That's it. That's the only thing you have to delineate at this point in time. Then when you decide you want to be a creator, well, guess what? Me and Ray have a book called Creators just for that. If you want to learn how to get your vision into victory, guess what? We have From Vision to Victory. If you're already turning wrenches, like we're scaling MRR at 6 figures and up, guess what? We've got speed scaling. If you really want to understand audience, I didn't talk about audience roadmap. Like, I'm talking about audience.
That's what
roadmap,
I was thinking,
bro.
for the people already turning their wrenches and doing 6 figures. Audience roadmap's kind of a great thing for those type of people.
It's insane because that was based on real world. Hey, we got to get this done now. It is do or die. There's no such thing as too big to fail. Like, you can fail faster if you don't really get things implemented quickly. That's what audience roadmap is all about. And then, like I said, all of the stuff that me and Ray have produced. And I wanted to go more into also the scientific side of PDocs, because again, when you understand that me and Ray have turned wrenches to actually fix things that are already viral, that's when you get that aha moment and go, oh shit. It's like, yeah, we've been telling you, like, come on in, the party's good. Like, where do you want to go play? I
thought I knew marketing before PDocs, and that breaks it down to such a scientific level. I was able to, partner with the founder and creator of it and I was one of the first people to be able to learn it and implement it. And then I saw how quick it worked. And I was like, it opened my eyes to like, oh, this is real marketing. I actually do like it. See, I never thought I liked marketing before I learned PDocs, really.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing about it, though. It's just like there's literally acres of diamonds around us, but the people who are watching and listening to this, they have to really understand that what if what we're saying is real? Because there's always going to be this barrier in this shadow of doubt, no matter how good you are on this planet, because a lot of people have been burned before in the past. Look, on behalf of all the human beings before me, I want to apologize. I ain't had nothing to do with that. Ain't got nothing to do with me. And I even had to say that in a high level on the manufacturing side, bro. You already know who I played with on the manufacturing side. I have literally sat down with the world's top executives and did the exact same thing I'm doing right now. Hey, guys, on behalf of the humans who are in front of me, I apologize. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I'm a facilitator. I love to facilitate content. I like to facilitate stuff that works. We got a whole plethora of stuff that works. Where you stuck, where do you need help out with right now? Doesn't matter whether it's personally or professionally. I have walked into enough automotive dealerships as a finance manager, as a trainer, as a guy taking deals, desking deals, closing deals, doing the write-ups, washing the cars, everything, even working with absentee owners. I've done everything short of own a actual brand, okay? And I can tell you that it all boils down to mindset, period, end of story. Now, me and Ray's position, though, is that, okay, well, if you really got some mindset problems, we do have one of the world's top mindset performance coaches, period, end of story. We'll bring her on the show. Tell you, she's absolutely amazing, phenomenal. But everybody else,
sometime.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. We're moving so fast. We gotta start really corralling and getting people to understand that we're at a season right now where we just really want to help people on levels. But what me and Ray are specializing in are the hardcore business owners right now who have been burned, they need help, or they're stuck, and we can collaboratively help you out. Period, end of story. Just up front, we ain't doing no performance deals. We've done performance deals before. You got to pay up front, but other than that,
I mean, generally speaking, we've still done some performance deals, but that would have to be, exactly.
That has to be talked about because because the whole thing about it though, Ray, that's how me and Ray are, where we're passionate about what we do, but we're also in another season where we want to start duplicating our efforts and our results. So that's the reasons why I'm saying, it's still going to be case by case as far as the performance deals go, but for the most part, I am going to stick in the lane of SEO, search engine optimization, PPC, and AEO, which is Ask Engine Optimization. I do that for my clients. I train the algorithms and also the AI in a way to where you are the authority. Doesn't matter whether it's local or national, because I was one of the guys who was actually still behind the scenes working with a lot of the top level LLMs, large language models, before they actually became public. So is that Joe? We just had Joe jump on.
And I will still be primary in the lanes of crafting offer.
With y'all. I was going to listen from the bottom. I got to get out of here. Hold
on. No worries, Joe. But thing though is that like literally what we're looking for is we're looking for people who really want the help. Doesn't matter whether you're a startup from scratch or you're very advanced. That's the reason why I like this particular platform, Ray, is that we can really facilitate a lot of content right here, no matter where people are stuck. We got 2 full hours to do it. But the reality of it is we have a solution for practically literally everybody on this planet, provided that, again, this is the big caveat, that you're real, you're really willing to turn a wrench, and you're really willing to just blast past all the local, personal, professional, intellectual, spiritual, and social BS that's going on in your world. That's all we care about.
And you're good at what you do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You deliver great results or product or whatever, whatever it is. But yeah, you got to be really good at what you do. I mean, to your point, Fred, I just had a call last week where I did the same thing. I was apologizing for the person before me, right? I was on the sales call talking with a guy that was looking for some business consulting and coaching. And we got to the end of the call and he's like, well, Ray, everything sounds great, but I've been burned on the past and yada, yada, yada. And I just said back, this guy's name was Joe. I was like, hey, Joe, man, I totally get it. I mean, I understand there's a lot of over promising and under delivering out there in the space. And I'm sorry that you had that negative experience, but I would like you to at least just be unbiased and put me in a separate category. Now, do you see how everything we talked about today and how I work with you and your business differ from that last coach? Oh yeah, I totally see it. Right. And then he started to compare apples to apples. And like immediately when somebody's going to make a purchase, in any industry, whether it's a car, whether it's a coach, whether it's whatever, they're going to go back in their mind to past negative experiences or maybe negative experiences they've even heard about from a close friend, colleague, somebody they trust, what have you. But when you can help them decompartmentalize and compare apples to apples and make a rational decision, sometimes that's what you have to do. Going back to something you said maybe 10 minutes ago, I never thought I would refer to us in this way. Maybe I wouldn't have, but when you said it was just, it was right. So I kind of smirked when I heard you say it, but you said, we're kind of a big deal. And when you said that, I was like, I don't think I would ever refer to myself or say that about myself, but it's not wrong. So I guess I would. I guess I would. I just, when you said, I'm like, would I ever say I'm kind of a big deal? I'm like, I don't know if I would, but it's actually not wrong, especially comparing us to the other people out here in terms of genuineness and people that really care if our clients get results. And I think Fred and I are both wired in the place where the people we work with, their overall happiness increases because their business gets better, because their life gets better. And that is really important to both me and Fred. Whereas I'm not going to say it's not important to everybody, but I know there's a lot of people out there that really don't give a shit if their clients are happy or not once they collected their onboarding, whatever the cost, you know what I mean? 100%. Once they expect their credit card.
Yeah, bro. Let me tell you why I said it just like that, bro. And I really appreciate you catching that. Was because the humble people are getting crushed right now. That's the reason why there's a big problem, because we're so humble that we're not blowing our own horns, which is the reason why I say to some extent I hate marketing, because the people who are halfway better can just make the most noise in the marketplace and they win. That is the problem. I've dealt with a lot of experts who don't know how to start promoting, or they don't want to promote, or they think that they're going to continually get repeat and referral marketing. Look, while that's all well and fine, that's still a dead model. Because if you're looking at people who do it really, really well, what are they doing? They either have a lot of good affiliate marketing going on, they've got some relatively good ads going on. Yeah. They have some consistent mechanism that keeps them in the game 24 hours a day, whether they're working or not. That's what I mean by that, bro. So we have to get to the point where we understand that we are great. We understand that we are great and really embrace that greatness. Then we start really going, okay, well, if look, at least look, don't believe a word I say. I always tell people that out the gate, don't believe a word I say. Actually go out there and test it, because you're going to get a better result.
Oh, hell yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but literally it's just like, look, go out here and fix the problem that you have the most attention on. Like, period. Like, for example, with me, I hate talking about news. I hate talking about politics. I hate talking about religion. Excuse me. But because I've been trained in all of that stuff, I'm really good at talking about it. But what I've had to learn how to do was to actually understand how other people communicate about it, because those are highly inflammatory subjects, right?
Yeah, they are.
but that's where all the money is, like, straight up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Look, I hate to say it like that, because I'm not about the money on that, but I am about the money. And here's why I say it just like that, is because if we don't monetize it, then somebody else will. And if you're too, and if you're less 100%, and if you're too humble to go out there and get that bag, then My challenge to you is to maybe see if you can get a brain transplant. That's about as nice as I can be about it.
You're spot on with that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. I mean, that was my thought process when I launched my first offer ever online. When I stepped away from that company that you and I met at, and I was like, hey, I could do this. I could do this more and care more, be more hands-on and charge less. And like, that was my first big epiphany. Like, I could go do this as well, and I don't have to charge as much. And I can actually give more of a personal approach and give people what they want. And earlier you gave maybe 15 minutes or so, you gave an example of the speed of like poker in a casino as opposed to online, the hands per hour and the differences. And you're 100% right. That was a great example. I beg to differ. The other example or the other difference playing live as opposed to online is the math doesn't really change. The mathematical, chances that your hand's going to hold up or that your flush is going to beat their two pair or whatever. But what does change, and we're both poker players, so we can talk about this. You can't read people and get their personal interactions online. You can play the math all day, and you can get trends on players, but you can't read tells or like things I can pick up at the table where I just look over and I'm like, oh, I got this guy. It doesn't even matter what I'm holding at this time. I already got him beat just because I got him beat in my head. You know what I mean? So same thing with business. Fred and I look at it from that strategic level. How can you get every inch and pull every tell and get every mathematical advantage and just 1% better each and every day and apply that into your business or your life or your goals and see how quick you actually reach them. You know what I mean?
I do, and some of my best automotive dealers were actually in those industries, so they understand mathematics at that level. You know, they understand like the accounting behind that level. They understand like a lot of the high level strategies that most people are trying to figure out, provided that they even have attention on them in the first place. But my point is, look, if you have a trade, if you have a skill, if you have an offer, then you need to be empowered. Now, while I may not like marketing the way that it's currently defined, what I do like is the fact that me and Ray have actually defined it in a whole different way and have the receipts to prove it, because we still have clients who are growing like wildfire right now, individually as well as collectively as a team, which is why we started this power agency with the intention of really showing you a lot more of the team that we do have who are all around the world, who are just helping people for real and getting the results. Because it's when you understand that there is a process, then you learn how to lean on the process, not your own personal results. The results that you get personally are going to come from you actually taking like this 24 karat gold, right? And then you taking that 24 karat gold, is the purest information that we can give you, and applying it to your real world. That's how this game works. It doesn't matter whether you're trying to get cash flow or you're trying to get a girlfriend. It's going to be the exact same strategies and techniques, because it's off of principles. It's principle driven. That's the difference. We're not sitting here talking about tactics. Pro tip: the tactics are going to show up once you get the strategy down. Pro tip: the strategy is going to show up once you get the vision down. Pro tip: the vision is going to show up once you know exactly what you want. I can keep going.
I know.
That's the reason why me and Ray can give away 90% of it, because it works. The question is, are you willing to step up for the other 10?
Yeah, and are you willing to make it work?
100%. I can't do that part for you. You can't take mules to the Kentucky Derby. Always remember that.
Well, I mean, you can. You're not going to place very well, though.
Yeah, you can bet on them not winning, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was even a good analogy. It's funny. I can go back to a DM conversation I had with my business partner, Jesse, a while back, where I was interested in this girl, and I found her on Facebook, and I DM'd her. And I was talking with him a little about her. He's like, did you seal the deal? Did you get a date? I'm like, dude, I got her in the DMs. Of course I closed. Like, it didn't matter if I was closing an appointment booking into my business or if I was getting her number and closing a date. Like, yeah, once I get in the DMs, I'm gonna convert, man. And my confidence was there, you know what I mean? Where it's I never looked at it that way before I got into marketing. It's just ironic, but
100%.
I only thought of that when you said that. It doesn't matter if you're trying to get a girlfriend or make a sale. Like, good point. I'm a live example of that. Get them in the DMs, I'll close, because you know what? I know how to convert conversations. It doesn't really matter what the objective or the goal is.
100%. So this is what I'm asking for, because we're almost at the top of the hour. What I want everybody to
actually
do.
Got to hop off at quarter of today only. Next week I got 2 hours, but I got to hop off in 5 today, Fred, just to give you a heads up.
Me too, brother. We're tracking. So shout out to Joe. Shout out to UPR and radio. Real talk. We're doing it. And the whole thing that we want to be able to do is grow, not just the channel, but we want to grow the people around us, because we know for a fact that if we impact you directly, you're going to impact your community. This is all I got. Like, literally, you can go to LinkedIn, Facebook, check the receipts. That's fine. I don't care. What I care about is when you start believing that you can actually do what we're doing, because it's really not that hard. You just have to do what I call mastering the mundane, doing that one thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over with no expectation of anything, but you're going to get everything. Because when you understand that me and Ray are giving you the shortcut, we are literally giving you the shortcut. We're like, okay, me and Ray have done some crazy things in our life. We've scaled up multi-million-dollar companies together online, which is crazy because that's hard to do in itself.
It is,
and
hard.
It's just in like, we're literally giving you this template, and also billion-dollar companies for me offline from scratch. Like, we have something here that the world doesn't. So we're going to offer that to you, and in exchange for that, go out there, change the world, buy our stuff. We'll continue to help you out and help out the other people around you. It's just that simple.
Change the world one person at a time. And like Fred says, the more you succeed and the more you're happier, the more you're going to be influential in your community, which is making the world a better place one person at a time. It sounds very cliche, but that's where it needs to start for all the changes. And what does everybody talk about and everybody want? And I don't want to get all political, but we want our country and the world ultimately, but united, right? And there's so much stuff driving us apart: politics, religion, right? Everything Fred mentioned that are very hot button or buzz topics that are basically made to divide and to be divisive between, human beings and individuals. But at your community level and with your own grassroots, successes you have, that bleeds over into your family, your community, your town, your state, and ultimately, it just spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, so I'll say it this way and then we'll close. Bring the data and the drama, and we'll figure out how to monetize it.
That's a good thing. The last thing I'm going to say about this, where I got feedback today, Fred, I was with 2 one-on-one calls with clients earlier, and I have one more after this, and then my weekend's done, and I'm going to go spend time with my kids and my family and stuff. But both of them, they were like, Ray, there's a lot of information, a lot of stuff, but what I love you do, each call we have, you break it down as, hey, in the next 7 to 10 days, focus on 1, 2, 3. And they always know what their next steps are and what to focus on. And they're asking these questions about stuff 30, 60, 90 days down the road. Forget about it now. Let's focus on what we need to tackle in the next 10 days and where you're at in your business. If I'm you, this is what I would do. Would you agree with me, Amy? Oh, hell yeah, Ray. That's definitely what I should be focused on. Cool. Let's tune out what you said 30, 60 days down the road. Let's focus on these 3 things for 10 days and see where we're at. She's going to come back in 10 days and she's going to be like, holy shit, I was able to accomplish all this. And then we'll build out the next 10 days, right? So guys, don't think just because I know, the bitter taste or you might have worked with somebody in the past and had a lot of confusion or a lot of information and content, but no real direction. That's one thing Fred and I are very good about: assessing where you're at, giving you direction, and just a game plan, 1, 2, 3 steps at a time. No more than that.
100%, brother. And I really do appreciate it. Thank you for your trust. And guys, drop a comment, let us know, bring some people on for next week. If you have any issues, we don't care what they are, bring them to us. We'll handle them. I'll see if I can get Tayo on next week for a little bit, bro. The Misha, we'll just get a few other people from the squad on, but mainly what we want you to understand that we're here single-handedly to empower you. So much love, and we will see you next week.
Good shit. Thanks, Fred.
Of course.
The Power Agency is built for those who move like predators, decide like weapons, and execute like their life depends on it.